acing your geography exam is not an easy feat, but we think we've got a structure there that can really help you get there. Okay, so a lot of you will have already seen my videos on how to write the perfect paragraph, and we recommend people use a piece structure. In a piece structure, there's the ACE or the ACE section, which, having done some AQA and EdXL marking training, is clearly about worth about 70 to 75% of your total grade for those long answers. So getting the ACE section with an analysis, criticism, and explanation section of your each paragraph well and doing it well is really important to get your grades 7, 8, 9 out of 9 or grades 10, 11, 12 out of 12 and save your 19, 20 in your 20 markers. Okay, so what do we mean by ACE? By ACE we mean it's a section where you analyze your point and evidence. It's a section where you criticize or counterpoint the PEA section, and then it's explaining that criticism. Okay, so you've got a few examples of connectives here you could use, but basically, in this section is where we really want you to think about these four tools. Doesn't mean you have to use them every single time, but using at least one of them in every piece paragraph will really make you stand out from the crowd. Okay, and by that we mean when you analyze your point and your evidence, you need to try and think about it and can you analyze it in terms of time scale? So are we talking short term? Are we talking long term? So I also call that temporality. Are we talking short term, long term? What scale are we looking at? Are you discussing that at a local scale, regional, national, global level? All that would depend on the question, obviously. Can you maybe distinguish between different stakeholders who might be seen as winners and losers of a certain issue, different perspectives? And then if you talk about sustainability, make sure you categorize your sustainability as economic, social, environmental. Okay? They're all tools. I recommend you use as many as you can. Don't have to use them all every single time. Here's an example of a 12-mark question from a level student of ours. So, example here, it says that when water is contaminated due to mismanagement and government corruption, um, as governments prioritize economic growth rather than population health, tensions can arise. Okay, that's a point answering the question of using a named example, assess the potential for water supply to become a source of conflict. That's their point. They back up their point with a fact saying that in 2023 we saw a 103% increase in sewage discharge in the UK rivers. Two lines, a very short way of making a point in your evidence. Okay, the analysis section here, you notice is huge. They then write causing conflict between water companies, environmental groups, customers, and the UK government. They've listed a few stakeholders. This has meant that water companies have received record fines affecting their profit margins. As a result of this, the cost of fines have been pushed onto customers, pushing the water companies further into conflict. The word conflict there is linking it back to the question over the sewage situation. Therefore, there has been instances where Severn Water has had to release further sewage into rivers to save further money, causing further conflict. Again, linking to the question, with environmental groups, stakeholder across the southwest. There we talk about temporality. Temporality. No, you talk about scale. In this case, it would be regional. The counterpoint says, well, however, water companies have long argued that volume of rainfall in some areas, exacerbated by climate change and wet winters in the last 2 years, has meant that in this case, it's timescale and temporality. In the short term, this sewage release is unavoidable to save the value and operation of their company. Environmental groups, different stakeholders, have also cited this as a short-term solution, whilst appreciating that long-term solutions are needed. Again, timescale and temporality here. As a result of the conflict, linking it back to the question, between different stakeholders and the government, with a looming election, no satisfactory solution has been achieved. They've really done a lot in this 12 one paragraph. They've got the P, the E, the A, the C, and the E, but you notice that the ACE section is by far the biggest. They've linked it back to the question. They've used stakeholders. They've used scale. They've used temporality and timescale. Okay, this is a really good example. So ultimately, what do I want you to do for 9, 12, and 20 markers? I want you to read the questions every single time and read it clearly. I want you to underline the command word and the key terms. I've got a whole videos on command word. Best way to do it is write an introduction that says where you sit. Best way to do that is to draw a little spectrum at the top of your question. So on a scale of positive to negative, where do you stand? On a local to national, where do you stand? On a sustainable to unsustainable, where do you stand? Just put a little arrow there on these timescales to see where you stand. And then make sure the first sentence of each of your paragraph actually reflects your introduction and your opinion. Okay, you do this every time. You can try these two practice questions at home to see how you get on. But this is a really good way to frame your arguments.